The Transform Your Mind radio hour is a journey through the mind, offering fresh approaches to old problems that plague the African-American woman and youth. Host Myrna Young, life coach, and Arifa Youssef, social worker, discuss topics such as relationships, depression, the single life, how to supercharge your marriage, poverty mindset, and more. Tune in every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and transform your mind to transform your life.
Welcome to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio hour and podcast. I'm your host, certified professional life coach Myrna Young, and in the co-host chair today is Dr. Tra Ahia, doctor of psychology, author of Call Me an Addict, War and Women, lecturer, teacher, and coach. She wears many hats. Welcome, Dr. Ahia.
Yes, welcome to all that are listening.
Yes, we're ready. Awesome. All right. Well, we just finished a series on childhood trauma and substance abuse, including drug addiction. And today we want to kind of marry another topic that is similar to that, and that is understanding and managing compulsive behaviors. So I thought this would be a good, segue into this topic because addictions is part and parcel of compulsive behavior. So I thought that Dr. Ahia and I can unpack this topic for you, our listeners. Arifa is not here today, so it's just me and the doc. All right. So let me introduce the topic a little bit before we bring on Dr. Tra. Millions of people suffer from at least one compulsive behavior. Compulsive behaviors are actions that are engaged in repeatedly, often when the individual wishes they could stop, like drug addiction. Despite the fact that the act triggers negative outcomes, leads to interpersonal conflicts, or damages mental health, they still continue with this compulsive behavior. Common activities that can develop into compulsions include shopping, hoarding, eating, gambling, sex, and exercise, to name a few. Though some behaviors are easier to overindulge in than others, in reality, nearly any behavior has the potential of becoming a compulsion. Some people even talk compulsively, for instance. I know you know a few. They're also, right? Yes. There are also obsessive compulsions, in which the compulsive person performs certain behaviors to relieve underlying anxiety or negative emotions. A well-known example is a person who checks and rechecks everything. If the stove is turned on, for instance, or if the door is locked. Now, I have a son that actually has been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive behavior, and he checks his backpack 50 times. He just checks and checks and checks and rechecks it. That's just one of the activities that he performs, just trying to make sure that he has everything. All right, now these behaviors rarely decrease the anxiety in the long run. In most cases, they only provide temporary relief. In extreme cases, compulsive behaviors start to take over the person's work, home, and social life at the expense of normal behaviors. All right, so this is going to be a great topic for Dr. Tra to expand and unpack for us. But before I bring her on, I want to give a shout out to two of our sponsors for this episode, Blessed Wendy Jones and Make America Safe Again. Ladies, where do you buy your eyelashes and jewelry? I want to introduce you to my online store, blessedwendyjones.com. I sell 100% cruelty-free, handmade, 3D fake mink eyelashes and custom jewelry. I pray over all my products, so when you receive your package, it truly blesses you. Shop at blessedwendyjones.com to receive your blessing today. That is blessedwendyjones.com. Make America Safe Again is an ebook recommendation to the selected 2020 president to make America safe again from gun violence. author Isaiah Robinson Jr. teaches how to stop the evil gunman with 2 superhero companies. Make sure to check out the ebook, Make America Safe Again and Spread the Message, now available on Amazon. I want to thank all our sponsors for this episode, and please remember to support the advertisers who support this show. All right, so let's get on with the show. So, Dr. Tra, how are compulsive behaviors, compulsive behaviors and addictions connected? Enlighten us.
So, I remember reading an article in the Science magazine journal, Behavioral Addictions, Do They Really Exist, by Constance Holden. And I remember them talking about how scientists have, we can traditionally confined the use of the term addiction to substance. And as this clearly relates to physical dependence. So that's changing as we're learning and growing about this. And so the new researchers suggest that as far as the brain is concerned, a reward's a reward. So regardless of whether it comes from a chemical or an experience. And you know that there's a lot of reward in people who indulge in compulsions like gambling, eating, sex, or even just shopping, buying things, and becoming a hoarder. So there's a risk of those behaviors of individuals getting trapped in a compulsion. So it's the reward component that relates these 2 addictions to one another.
I didn't even. I'm going to list a few of compulsions, but I actually did not put gambling on there. That's a good one. That's my goodness. That is wow. That's a major one too. Right.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
All right. So I actually. So what you're saying is the reward against a compulsion. All right, but I just mentioned that my son checks and rechecks his bag. Where's the reward in that action?
The fact that he's checked and he knows that it's there.
Well,
so
I
thought
see that.
It's there. Yeah, I see it. It's there. Okay, now let me go on to the next thing. Then his brain tricks him into thinking that it hasn't checked and he needs to re-up again.
Oh, my
call it. Let's
goodness.
Re-up. And then he'll check again. Oh, I received that reward. Now I can go on to something else. That compulsive behavior.
Wow. So the brain tricks him because he actually forgot that he just checked it, huh? Wow.
And maybe not necessarily forgetting, but remember that sensation he needs and that dopamine. So he gets that, and then there's a sense of relief. And then he needs to re-up every now and then. And so that's where he has to check and check and check.
Wow. Okay. That is really interesting. That's not the answer that I expected on that one at all. And that's one of the reasons I do the show, because when I talk to people, I'm upping my knowledge all the time, So that was, go ahead.
So we have to remember that addictions and compulsive behaviors are all a part of the brain's reward circuit. That's the key. From that dopamine-producing neurons in our brain, the ventral tegmental area, the VTA. So at some point, that dopamine subsides, and then we need more. And so that's when you'll see that behavior repeat itself.
That's pretty good. All right. Now, unpacking that a little bit more, when I was doing my research, I found that compulsive behaviors sometimes have a genetic effect. And they specifically mention the fact that it's seen in identical twins. And I know some identical twins that has a host of compulsive behaviors. But they can. So now that was new information for me, because I always thought that their compulsive behaviors came from their environment. For instance, they came into the foster care system at 4 years old, and the fact that they had trauma, I attributed their compulsive behaviors to genes maybe from their biological parents, because they know that, they say that your biological parents give you 50% of their genes, and the other 50% comes from your environment. So they started with compulsive behaviors very early, from about 5 years old, and it just keeps getting compounded, They started stealing, and that stealing turned into shoplifting, and then they were run away, and they couldn't stop running away, and now they're hoarders. So, so I understand the reward there. In fact, these twin girls, when they go to counseling, they would talk about this reward. They're saying that even the running away, where there's some kind of reward there. You would think that running away, and like I think last week you said that I couldn't understand the mind of a person that abuses little girls. Because I can't, we can't get our brain there. But, it's the same thing. I'm thinking, why would somebody run away from a home that they're being treated well and go live on the streets and don't bathe and have to but, the therapist was saying there's some reward in there. If there wasn't a reward in there, they wouldn't do it. So, anything you want to say on that about the identical?
So some of the things you mentioned perhaps are genetically based, and others are environmentally based. There's an interaction there. There's a tremendous amount of psychological studies on twins because they provide us with the best when we look at the interaction between the environment and the genetic component. So some of the neurological studies have shown that these twins with these behaviors, these compulsive behaviors, who literally have the disorder, they suffer from deficits in the executive function. And remember I talked about that's in our frontal lobe.
Right.
So those things include things like cognitive planning, response inhibition, set switching, working memory, and sustained attention. So a lot of times when we talk about the rewards they receive, they need that in order to maintain the cognitive balance that they need, So a lot of these behaviors we're seeing are they're unaware of this even. They're just actually going through the motions, if you will. They're unaware. They're unconscious of their, unfortunately.
Okay.
Some of them don't even know. So when we do that neural imaging, then we can get to see the parts of their structural images of the brain, looks at the volume changes in the orbital frontal cortex. We could see the changes versus someone who does not have these issues in our basal ganglia or our anterior cingulate cortex. We can see the changes through the MRI studies or even the fMRI studies. So that helps a lot, to understand why they behave the way they do. It's very unfortunate, too.
Yeah, it is very unfortunate. So, yes, and so the twins thing as well as the environment, and it's, so they've got a deficit, huh? All right, well, you said a lot of stuff there, but so that's good, that we can begin to understand. I mean, I'm like my brain is expanding from this conversation. You said a couple of things that was new information to me. So that's good to explain, what happens in the twins, because the twins, you're looking at both the neurological as well as the environment. Yeah, so that's probably why they study them. So that's amazing. Awesome. All right. So, these compulsions sometimes arise from stressful events, trauma, or abuse, as we've seen in the study of addictions. And when people engage in compulsions, they become trapped in the pattern of repetitive actions or senseless thinking for where it's difficult to break free. And treatment is often the key for overcoming compulsive behaviors. So, Dr. Tra, so we just talked about how a normal behavior turns into compulsive behavior, and you talked about the reward system. So stealing is one that I have personal experience with as a compulsion, and I remember looking at these same twin girls again, they would steal almost like a kleptomania. I mean, they would take stuff that wasn't even valuable to them.
They didn't even need, yeah.
They didn't need, right. And so is there something that like a psychologist like yourself can do to reduce this reward behavior?
So one approach that is used is cognitive behavioral therapy. We talked about that before, CBT.
Last week. Mm-hmm.
Yep, there are other counseling approaches that have been proven that are effective in helping these folks manage these compulsions. And, sometimes folks use antidepressants or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. We call those the SSRIs. Those medications are typically used for anxiety and depression. A lot of times, folks who experience these types of behaviors also experience anxiety and depression, and they don't talk about that with their loved ones or folks near them. But if you kind of watch them, you can kind of get the sense that they're experiencing depression and that sort, because that's all they do. It's so sad.
Yeah.
So with the compulsive shopping, that stealing and all of that, they're preoccupied. A lot of them don't even realize that they're going into debt. It's insignificant to them. And like you said, a lot of them don't even need the objects that they're either stealing or purchasing over and over and over again. So with the CBT, we can help them recognize that and then set goals. So you have them set specific goals that would eventually dissipate some of that behavior and reduce some of that behavior.
Okay. You mentioned that sometimes a lot of them are depressed. Have you ever seen the reversed, where they're always in a good mood and nothing ever bothers them? Is that
just because that's what they show doesn't mean that they're not depressed. Just because that's what they're exhibiting.
Yes, that's what they're showing.
Yeah,
right.
That's just what they're showing you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, because that's what I've seen. I've always wondered sometimes, these kids look like nothing bothers them. And they're always smiling and laughing and going on.
Yeah.
But it's all fun, huh?
Yeah,
wow.
They're in such pain too. It's so sad.
That is sad.
Pain.
It is.
Yes.
I was just gonna say that's
and
very sad.
And you have to remember, the younger our human is, what do young humans do? Even other creatures who are very young, like from 0 to 5. What do young creatures do? From 5 to 11. Most young creatures play. Most creatures play. We look at the little bear cubs. We look at little young humans. They want to smile. We're making faces, and they just start smiling at us, So, of course, as they go into their later teens and early 20s, that still tends to be a part of what that human does. They think, they've been socialized to think, no one will know that I'm in pain. Let me be happy. Let me smile. Oh, boy, yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow. This is deep stuff. You get me to do some thinking. My goodness. Wow. This is good stuff. All right. Awesome. So what you're saying, that CBT sometimes can help them to set goals and realize that in order to stop the behavior and make them become conscious and aware, which is probably you can't change anything you're not aware of, right? Yep.
That's the idea.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, we've had an incredibly good start. I mean, I've had some aha moments, as Oprah would say, already in our conversation.
Yes.
Right, because I know of a few people with these compulsive behaviors. I'm coming from a personal bank. All right, so let's take our first break. And when we come back, we're going to, I know, right? You always do, the brakes always come up on you, right?
It hits me. Wow.
Yeah, let's take our first break. And when we come back, we're going to unpack some common types of compulsive disorders. So don't go anywhere. Keep it locked. We'll be right back.
As long as we keep visit our exciting adventure club at www.duckymaze.com. Pinky and Todd will be waiting there for you with their entertaining adventures, as well as their home and garden merchandises for you to view. Enjoy our amazing home and garden website at www.duckymaze.com.
Attention real estate investors and entrepreneurs. Did you know that real estate investors are a primary target for lawsuits? According to the National Survey of the Court data, 25% of Americans risk being sued in their lifetime. However, if you are a real estate investor, you have a 95% chance of being sued in the next 20 years. Leafy Legal Services helps you protect your assets and strategically grow your business and wealth. Leafy Legal Services are experts at the Series LLC and Delaware Statutory Trust, two of the newest and most ideal legal structures for real estate investors. Leafy Legal Services have the most personalized and affordable solutions for setting up LLCs. Property owners are always at risk when it comes to their assets. Anonymity is so important. If you own just a rental house and you own your home, you have to protect yourself and your properties from any potential legal issues. Leafy Legal Services have the right solutions to make sure you are happy and feel secure. They offer cost-effective documentation that suits their clients' needs. For a free consultation and ebook, visit LeafyLegalServices.com. They are waiting to hear from you. LeafyLegalServices.com.
Have you ever wished that you had the information to elevate the conversation at work on how to build a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion? Well, now you do. With my newly published book, A Seat at the Table or Part of the Meal by Kimberly Bussey Lewis. This book will give you examples of intentional efforts that level the playing field and yield dividends for your career and your company. The book can be found on Amazon, A Seat at the Table or A Part of the Meal by Kimberly Bussey Lewis, or on www.motivationalmuse.com. So get your copy today and get your seat at the table.
Don't wait until sexual temptation attacks you before you see it as a formidable force which seeks to destroy you. Its insidious tactic is designed to enslave you into sexual sin and keep you locked in erotic desires. How you perceive sexual temptation in your life determines how well you will overcome its deceitful force and walk in total victory. Naked and Ashamed, The Battle of Sexual Temptation is a Christian self-help book that explains what sexual temptation is and gives you biblical scriptures on how to control your sexual desires and unnatural urges. Readers will learn how to refrain from overreacting and falling into sexual bondage. So, put on your seatbelt and get ready to be free from all your unwanted sexual desires and temptations. Order Naked and Ashamed, The Battle of Sexual Temptation today. Written by Sheila Fields. Now available on Amazon.
Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio hour and podcast. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna Young. And in the co-host chair today is Dr. Tra Ahia, consultant psychologist. And we are discussing compulsive behavior and disorders and how to maintain and manage them. In our first segment, Dr. Ahia unpacked some information for us regarding the reward system and why addictions and the compulsive behaviors are so linked, because they need to re-up the dopamine. I like that phrase. Re-up on the dopamine. And we also looked at twins, because the twins, gave us some information neurologically because they're identical, as well as the environment. So now, as we get into the second segment, we are going to look at some compulsive disorders. And so the compulsive disorders come in many forms, all of which can be quite debilitating, that's the word, or even dangerous. Hoarders, for instance, which is one that I want Dr. Ahia to talk about, are those who are unable to part with even the most worthless possessions. Many hoarders find the act of purging so distressful that they live under under extremely crowded and potentially harmful conditions. So some of the compulsions that are most common are compulsive shopping, compulsive eating, over-exercising, hoarding, compulsively taking selfies and posting on social media, compulsive sexual behavior. And Dr. Ahia also mentioned another one that I did not have on here, and that's gambling, right? Always looking for the fix or for the win. So, Dr. Tra, we talked last week about neuroscience. So what negative triggers enable compulsive behaviors? And I'm curious specifically about the hoarding part of compulsions.
So when we think about compulsion, and whenever I hear it, I always think of obsessive compulsive disorder, the disorder that we as psychologists, or psychiatrists look at. And so think about that as a feature. It features a pattern of unreasonable thoughts and fears. So that's the obsession. So that obsession can lead you to do repetitive behaviors, the compulsion. All right, you get it? And so how we know you're an obsessive compulsive individual is if it interferes with your daily activities and it causes significant distress. So when we think about compulsion, it spans every aspect of your life in all settings. Okay, you feel driven to perform this compulsive act, and you do that so that you ease the stress you might feel as a result of not performing that compulsive act, that behavior. So that's one of the first things you think about. So now you talked about hoarding. That's such a sad one. It's very sad. And when the American Psychiatric Association looks at people with this hoarding disorder as people who save items that you or I may think are worthless.
Yeah.
Now,
you can't throw out anything.
I'm a collector.
Right.
Yeah, people, I'm a collector. Well, that's a little different because a collector will look for specific items such as a model car or a stamp. So that's a collector.
Whereas but they think it's valuable. Right.
People who hoard, the difference is people who hoard save random items and then they store them haphazardly and they overstore them, like you talked about. So hoarding occurs, believe it or not, in an estimated 2 to 6% of the population. That's a pretty large number. Yeah, and it leads
Why
to
do you think that is?
Distress. Well, we have issues with, individuals have issues with trauma. A lot of people that you talk to, that I've talked to, talk about death. They might talk about some type of abuse that they experience. And research shows that hoarding disorder is more common in males than females. And it's also more common among older adults. So there are 3 times as many adults between the age of 55 and 94 that are affected by this hoarding disorder when we compare that to individuals that are 34 to 44. So that's the statistics that researchers have found when we look at the gender difference and we look at the age disparity between those.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now, in the foster care, it is quite prevalent because I remember one of the first things that the therapist used to look for is if the kids are hoarding food. So because they thought that the hoarding food signifies something. So maybe you can talk on that. But the hoarding that I've been talking about with the 17-year-old twins, is they don't throw out anything. They don't throw out water bottles. They don't throw out cups. They don't throw out garbage. They don't throw out anything. So it could be nastiness, or it just could be this unreasonable wanting to hold on to something. Let's for a minute forget that they're right. Go ahead.
So we look at their experiences. So a person who's 0 to 18 or 0 to 17 in the foster program, just think about what that person's experience has been. A lot of these kids have significant neglect, right? Their basic needs, as Abraham Maslow talked about, has not been met. Some of them have been denied food, or that has been inadequately met. So the kid has been forced as a child to become prematurely self-reliant in meeting their own basic needs, whereas a child who doesn't have that hoarding food issue, that because their needs have been met by the caregiver in a common household, right? Also, we think of our kids who are in the foster care program. Not only have they experienced significant neglect, look at the reactive attachment disorder. I might not get this ever again. Oh, I got it now. Let me hold on to it.
Yeah.
So you have to also put that into our frame of reference when we look at these kids as well. They are troubled. And so holding on to things, backpacks, like you said, water bottles. Oh, I have this. This is mine. Okay, dirty garbage. Okay, at least I have it. Because I don't know when I'm not going to have it.
Right. Yes, yep.
So
go ahead.
When people take this are courageous to encounter and take these children into their homes, a lot of times you don't know what you're getting, and you better be ready. You better be ready, because they come with a host of issues and psychiatric issues at that.
Yes.
So it's more of a preservative behavior. That's what it basically. It's more of a preservative. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that part I knew. It's because, like I said, even if they don't remember actually being without food, their behaviors or the subconscious mind remembers, and they hoard food. And as soon as the symptom presents itself, then the therapist knows that it's because of some trauma or abuse or something like that, the hoarding food thing. But and then we get to not hoarding food, but not throwing out anything, and living like a garbage dump, because everything is, like we've seen in the hoarding shows. It's really a garbage dump, because it's you put everything there, you never throw anything out, so you're living with garbage, right? So
and there are kids who are not in the foster care program that hoard as well. I mean, for different disorders, they could have eating disorders. They could have the Prader-Willi syndrome. They could have reactive attachment disorder, like I talked about before. So you really have to dig and help the child understand what's going on, you know what I mean? Because it's not just one thing with them.
Okay.
It's not necessarily, quote, unquote, this child is not normal, there's something going on. You just have to seek mental health professional to get the answer,
Okay. All right, so I'm going to unpack what you just said, because people might have missed it. So what you're saying is that you can have these compulsive disorders without being affected by trauma. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes.
So when would that present itself if you never had trauma?
It depends on your age. It depends on the individual's age. And again, we're looking at genetic factors. So a person could be predisposed to some mental health issues, and it might surface in them. Remember, substance abuse is considered a mental health issue when we look at the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 5. So even if my mom was a substance abuser, my mental health issue might surface as a hoard or a pack rat. In the old days, they used to say, he is a pack rat. So I'm predisposed to having a mental health condition. Mine may just surface as a pack rat, or stealer or a hoarder.
Getting you right, because my right. My adopted son, his biological mother was a schizophrenia, and he has got a host of mental issues because it's coming from there. And then, compound that with the foster care system, right? Then these kids will get a big old whammy, right? Yeah. My goodness.
Oh, that's so sad.
Wow. Yeah, it is very sad. Yeah, he's the one that's got the obsessive compulsive disorder, among others. Right. All right. So, all right. Now, I know that as humans, we move towards pleasure and away from pain. So, since you're telling us that there's such a wide percentage, 2 to 6% of people that are hoarders or maybe even exhibit some kind of mental problem, and there's going to be parents that are listening. So we talked about the reward system, and we all know that when it's like a mice, I heard this thing, you shock a mice or you give him some pleasure, then he's going to be pushing that thing all the time to get more. So us, as humans, then whatever we see pleasure from, we're going to go towards it. And whenever we feel pain, we're going to go away from it. So, and you covered it fully about these obsessive compulsive behaviors are cemented because they engage the reward centers of the brain and the dopamine. But is there a way to get the reverse? We know that they go towards pleasure and away from pain. Is there a form of giving them shock pain, other than putting them on their shock therapy that you guys do as far as therapy, like a CBT, is just for
So that's aversive therapy.
Okay, right? There's a name for it.
Yeah,
okay.
So yes.
Okay.
It's aversive therapy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious, right?
So you're saying, is there a where you could use aversive therapy to extinguish the behavior? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, I was just curious. Like, for instance, I was looking at a video on Facebook, and the video had like almost 2 million views because it was in India. And this guy was beating his kids. And now we all know that beating kids are bad now, and people call the police and all that. But I grew up where if I did something wrong, I was spanked. And it wasn't abuse. The guy was using like a shoe or something, rubber, and he was spanking his kids in the butt, with the bottom. Right. So to me, that, when I grew up, we didn't have this crap about, you did something wrong, you felt pain, and you felt pain, and you know not to do it again. So now that is all illegal, and you're not supposed to do that. So what are the forms can parents do to stop this reward behavior? Because we know that if the kids find pleasure, they're going to continue doing it. We're not into the adults now, we're in the youth. Is there something that parents can do to stop that? Right. Okay.
They can. So what the idea is to increase the dopamine in the individual system. Remember that reward system that our brain has. So you just replace something positive, something constructive, with the negative. That's basically what you help the individuals do, the parents do. That's what you help them to do.
Okay. So you replace it with, that's true. You replace whatever that is with something positive. So if they're stealing to get dopamine, you maybe replace it with love, affection, something, I guess, along those lines.
I would say something tangible that they can keep. So a lot of times we'll use token economy system. I know that works well with schizophrenics. So if you use something like that particular system, the kid actually gets something tangible to reduce that inappropriate behavior. And, with each kid, everything is different. But each kid is different. So so essentially what we're doing is I want to use something that's going to modify your behavior. And I want to increase the desired behavior and decrease the undesirable behavior by the use of tokens or something. So what could I do if I get, at the end of the day, if I get 10 tokens because I haven't stole anything or I haven't exhibited that hoarding behavior? What could I get with the 10? So, and the child should be able to see whatever they could get, and it should be tiered. So in the first tier, like, wow, the first tier is something that, something easy, something light, and then the higher the tier, the more valuable that possession that person could get. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one of the things folks have used that. They've also, some individuals use charts or in conjunction with that to help individuals. You talked about what can you do to help the males, right? Did you talk about the males who have this sexual behavior? Can you shock them? So,
all right, no, we're gonna get into that one after the break. Don't jump ahead.
Oh.
But yeah, right.
So
right.
So that's what parents. So parents can actually use that type of. You've heard of? They've done different research with the rat.
Right. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Right. Well,
we looked at Pavlov with the dog salivating, and we looked at conditioning and classical conditioning. And this idea is to reduce or decrease the inappropriate behavior and increase the appropriate behaviors. So there has to be a reward system there. And then there's a ratio schedule that could be utilized as well to enforce the appropriate behaviors.
Well, that's great. But, I've had, like I said, been in therapy with kids for maybe 10 years now. And they always talk about reward systems, like, where, you take them someplace or I don't know, certain things, but nobody has ever mentioned something that they get to keep. That is amazing. I've never had anybody talk about a physical token.
Of course.
Right.
Because
never had that.
Now you have interaction with Dr. Ahia. So it's going to be a lot of things you have never heard.
That is absolutely amazing.
Let me tell you this, that has worked. So the things that I encourage my parents, they are proven and they work. Some of the things I work with schools, I will tell them things that sound so odd, but they work. I understand, especially children's behaviors. I truly understand. I truly get a human, how they act, how we act earlier on. Yeah. As we grow
amazing. And that's why we've never seen any change. Remember last episode, Aretha was talking about, what she does, and I've told her that I've actually never seen anybody, of all of these therapies that I do, I've never seen anyone that's actually benefited or made any changes. And it's probably because we're not giving them any physical tokens. Nothing that they value. Yeah, nothing that they value. That's right, yes.
Something, when you think about being an older human, when you get something tangible, you appreciate, wow, I went shopping and look at this wonderful picture I got, this clock I got. I worked hard for my money. That was my reward. Now I can trade it in for something that I like.
Yeah. Well, the only reference I have with that, and I tried it myself, my uncle used to give out $10 for an A and $5 for a B. And guess what? His kids came over with an A all the time because they want to get $10. And I started that with my daughter, and sure enough, she did the same thing. Where is my money? So that's the only thing that I can actually reference on that. But you're right. If you pay those kids some money, I bet you any money that they would have changed.
Well, we don't want to do the money with these kids. We don't. No, let's not.
You don't want to do the money. But I'm just saying that, it was just to get an A or a B or something to do well in your schoolwork. So that's a reward system. So, and I actually have one of my sponsors. He has something that's got a reward system with tokens or something like that. But so now we're taking it into the kids that really need it, and not the the kids that are, they're just working for an allowance kind of thing. So that's great. All right, so let's take our second break, and when we come back, we're going to unpack the sexual compulsive. Yeah, that is one that, that's a bad one. No other way of putting it. So don't go anywhere. Keep it locked. We'll be right back.
Have you ever run out of gas on a deserted road with no cell service? Or got lost on a solo hiking trip? I Am Canary is your answer. When you travel, you deserve the peace of mind. IamCanary.com will send digital messages when you can't do it yourself. This service can also be vital if something happens where there is a cell phone signal, but the person can't call for help themselves because they have either lost consciousness, seriously injured, or other reasons. I Am Canary will send alerts to family members, local professionals, or emergency services. A simple membership plan is free, and with it, you are never completely out of touch. So join today and feel safe to adventure worry-free with IamCanary.com. That is IamCanary.com.
Attention real estate investors and entrepreneurs. Did you know that real estate investors are a primary target for lawsuits? According to the National Survey of the Court data, 25% of Americans risk being sued in their lifetime. However, if you are a real estate investor, you have a 95% chance of being sued in the next 20 years. Leafy Legal Services helps you protect your assets and strategically grow your business and wealth. Leafy Legal Services are experts at the Series LLC and Delaware Statutory Trust, two of the newest and most ideal legal structures for real estate investors. Leafy Legal Services have the most personalized and affordable solutions for setting up LLCs. Property owners are always at risk when it comes to their assets. Anonymity is so important. If you own just a rental house and you own your home, you have to protect yourself and your properties from any potential legal issues. Leafy Legal Services have the right solutions to make sure you are happy and feel secure. They offer cost-effective documentation that suits their clients' needs. For a free consultation and ebook, visit LeafyLegalServices.com. They are waiting to hear from you. LeafyLegalServices.com.
Have you ever wished that you had the information to elevate the conversation at work on how to build a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion? Well, now you do. With my newly published book, A Seat at the Table or Part of the Meal by Kimberly Bussey Lewis. This book will give you examples of intentional efforts that level the playing field and yield dividends for your career and your company. The book can be found on Amazon, A Seat at the Table or A Part of the Meal by Kimberly Bussey Lewis, or on www.motivationalmuse.com. So get your copy today and get your seat at the table.
Kid Tasks, an application of good deeds, now available on Google Apps. Kid Tasks is an organizer for your children's daily routine, but it is good for the entire family. This is how it works. Parents, create a list of tasks. It could be as simple as feed your pet, brush your teeth, water the plants, do the dishes, etc. Parents, you can even rate each task in points. Family members do the tasks on the list and they get points. Parents, you can even set your own exchange rate. Example, 1 point may be equal to $1, more or less. Now, having collected a certain amount of points, the kids may ask their parents for their salary for their work. How cool. Why this app is useful for parents? Because it will help to give kids a sense of responsibility and prepare them for the things they need to do when they become older. Why is this app helpful for children? Because children will be rewarded when they help out with chores around the house. They will have the opportunity to earn a salary or pocket money in exchange for working on their tasks. To download this app, head over to Google Apps and search for Kid Tasks. That's KIDTASKS. You can also click the link on my blog to head over to Google Apps. My blog can be found at blog.myhelps.us.
Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio hour and podcast. I'm your host, Coach Myrna Young, and in the co-host chair today is Dr. Tra Ahia, consultant psychologist, author of the book Call Me an Addict, War on Women. And today we are looking at managing compulsive disorders and conditions. So in the first two segments, we looked at some types of compulsive disorders. We looked at, in the first segment, we looked at, twins and, the neurological component in some of the compulsive behaviors that they exhibit. And in the last segment, we unpacked hoarding and some other compulsive behaviors. But I didn't want to finish this episode without diving deep into the sexual compulsive disorder. So this behavior is represented in commonly available sexual practices such as attending strip clubs, compulsive masturbation, paying for sex through prostitution, excessive use of pornography, and repeated engagement in extramarital affairs. So as I read this list, I am seeing here, I'm getting the mental picture of a rat that's just pressing that button for more stimulation, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's all they want. They're re-upping their dopamine. I don't know if it stays or goes or what, but I'm just seeing that somebody is just going all out, and all they're thinking about is the reward of what they get through this behavior. So I have the question here for Dr. Ahia is, how do you make this painful? That's really the simple way of doing it. How do you take away all this pleasure and make it painful? And other than their wives leading them, of course.
That's not painful, because then they're free to just do whatever they want to do. Because she's not helping them out.
That's cute.
So my question is, why do you want to make it painful?
Well, because isn't that the only way to stop the reward? They're getting this reward, so we got to reverse the reward. I don't know. So, again, people move away to pleasure and away from pain. Those are the two opposites. Is there a middle?
Well, so, I wouldn't think of the aversive forms of treating this type of disorder, even though that has been done years and decades ago. So this is something that's been studied over 100 years. So this is not a new situation.
Okay.
And so one of the ways that I would look at treating this, and I've studied individuals with this disorder too, sexual addicts. They can go to Sex Addicts Anonymous. There's a place called Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, Sexaholics Anonymous. So there are so many programs to help individuals like this suffering from compulsive sexual behaviors. I always look at the testosterone levels in individuals. You can lower the individual's testosterone level, perhaps. I mean, if you talk about aversive types of behaviors, some people have it so bad where they have to actually become inpatient and intensive outpatient programs, yes, for compulsive sexual behaviors.
Wow.
So you focus on helping to identify the core triggers and the beliefs about sexual addiction, because remember now we have come to a point in society where so many different types of behaviors are acceptable. It's just acceptable. You want to have polygamous types of behavior.
Yeah,
you want to
I
have
hear
sex
you.
with,
Right.
man-boy love club. All these things. I can have sex with whoever and wherever.
Right.
So that's another thing you have to, when you first talk to an individual personally, I would look at what are their beliefs? What are your common beliefs about sex, sexual behavior, so that they can develop. You want to move the individual to develop healthier choices. That's the key, healthier choices. And then if I make this choice, I'm not masturbating, so how do I cope with that? What skills am I using that are going to minimize the urge that I have to engage in this sexual encounter? Okay, so those are some of the things. And then you look at individuals through, again, CBT or the psychodynamic therapy. Okay, so those are some of the ways that individuals have been helped to move away from that inappropriate behavior. And it's interesting that you're coupling the sexual addiction with substance abuse, because there is a correlation between the two. And I've been an addictions therapist for a lot of times, and I noticed a lot of people who were involved in substance abuse had sexual addictions as well, which is unfortunate, even with their children. So bad that they were imprisoned as a result. And I'm talking about decades of prison. I've interviewed people who were Catholic priests, people who would, oh my goodness, and this was before they were even on the map.
On the map. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
We had an opportunity to interview these individuals.
Well, the Catholic priests I can understand, because like anything in life, when you take it away, you want it more. So, I mean, even as a parent, I grew up thinking that if you lock up your girl children and don't let them do anything, then they turn wild because you've deprived them, and then they have to go. So I'm thinking that that's where the Catholic priest situation comes in. But I'm still looking at this from a naive point of view where this person's brain is telling them that they need more and more sexual act in order to, I don't know, be happy, in order to whatever. And it's a chemical thing, right?
Right.
And it's produced in the brain. They're not even taking drugs, right? They're not putting anything foreign. It's a natural thing that's coming in their brain, right? So how do you remove it?
Remember we talked about that. Remember we talked about remember we talked about the SSRIs and how they can decrease use of the medication, may decrease the urges and the cravings and the preoccupation associated with the sexual addiction. So a lot of times people are, given the medication, and it does help. It really does help. And you couple that with treatment. So the treatment is not only the medication, but it's also the you have to go to the therapist. You have to go to the therapist. And it even helps with kleptomania, you talked about earlier, to help individuals with this.
Yeah. Same brain, right? Same thing.
Yeah.
You keep doing these things as a compulsion because you like how you feel, I guess. Yeah, when you take things or when you get
with the gamblers, the pathological gamblers, and people who are the kleptomaniacs.
The gamblers, I understand, because I gamble a little bit, not a lot. I mean, in fact, I don't gamble at all now because I hate losing money. But if you were to ever sit down at a slot machine, they know how to keep you there, because they're going to give you little feedings every now and again of you winning something and you want to get more. So they play on that. And it's the same thing with gamblers. They don't become addicted unless they win, right? And when they get that win, then they keep looking for it. They want to win again and again and again. And the house always wins, so you lose your money. So
yes,
I don't like losing my money.
Sometimes they win. They did.
Well, they win. They have to win, else they wouldn't keep doing it. But in the end, they put back that same money that they win, and they lose it back, and the house wins in the end, right?
So yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically how that works, and that's basically how the slot machine works. They tease you and keep you sitting there, and then they give you a little bit of money, and then they take it all back.
Yep, and Las Vegas wasn't built on the winners; it was built on people losing.
Exactly. That's what I said. And the people that go there think, oh, I win once in a while, so they keep going back. They usually, yes, yeah. If you were to do any kind of audit, you'll find that they lose more times than they win. So, okay, awesome. All right. Well, I'm glad that we ended our show because we're coming up to the end of it. I'm glad we ended our show with the sexual addiction part of it because, I mean, that's one that's very destructive. Destructive to a lot of things. We're destructive to, marriages, destructive, you mentioned, destructive to homes where, these people sometimes go after their own kids. It feeds the prostitution, also trade. So yeah, it's pretty destructive. Yeah. So I'm glad that we ended on that, and we're given hope where there's some drugs and there's some therapy that people can take. And the first time I heard about sexual addiction is with Halle Berry's husband. Do you remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. He said that he had a sexual addiction, and that's how their marriage ended. I'm not sure what he did, but that's the first time, and that was way back. That was her first husband. And, but anyway. All right, so Dr. Tra, this was an exceptional show. A lot of good information. I love having a doctor in the house. We can unpack this stuff clinically and really give some good information. Anybody that's listening that has any kind of personal experience, either going through it now or somebody that they know, hopefully some of the things that we have talked about, parents, dealing with children, it's giving them a wide-angle lens onto the behavior of compulsions. And I myself have learned quite a few things from our topic today, because I personally deal with children, or young adults, I should say, that have compulsive disorder. So that was good for me as far as for my arsenal of how to handle these situations. So thank you, Dr. Tra. And as we wrap up, I want to thank you for being with us to the end of the broadcast. Please show your support by posting a review on iTunes or subscribing to the podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can post them to my blog, which is blog.myhelps.us. We've got a nice following now in YouTube, so you can post your comments in YouTube, anything that you want to talk to Dr. Tra about, or your comments, you post it on YouTube. And as listeners, you're also invited to join my private Facebook group called Life Coach, and you can post your questions and comments there as well. To read a transcript of this interview, head over to blog.myhelps.us. To reach Dr. Tra Ahia or to order her book, Call Me an Addict, War on Women, you can contact her on her website, which is www.forlifeservices.com. FORLifeServices-cc.com. That is FORLifeServices-cc.com. All right, Dr. Tra. We're fresh out of time. I know, right? We're definitely fresh out of time. So, any last words on our topic or in general before we wrap up?
Stay focused, and stay in charge. You are the victor, not the victim.
Love it, love it, love it. Yes, victim has no power. Yes, so definitely stay in charge. All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Tra, for taking the time to impart your knowledge. So until next time, namaste.